Cotton is down to a quarter a pound, and I'm busted.
Thanks, Mike. I'm a little bit punch drunk because I was about 7 hours in the budget committee today and going over a lot of the numbers. And if people ask me how am I doing, I think I'm doing really well with my job. But I also think about what Captain Willard said in Apocalypse Now, or it may have been Marlowe in Heart of Darkness. I wanted a job, and for my sins, I got one. How we got here? Well, we're at a $576 million deficit. Certainly, I would agree with a lot of the comments that Mike has made here. World economic collapse is one of them. We have San Francisco has a number of revenue streams where we get money for our budget. There's some that are more stable than others, but certainly when we have our economy that's tanking, we see a lot of indicators that come from payroll tax and hotel tax. One of the biggest funding streams for San Francisco is the hotel tax. Over the past, since December, our tourism industry has taken a complete dive, a nosedive, where we actually, the numbers that came in at the end of last year for hotel tax were actually fairly strong, but everyone knew that there was a big, huge dip in that over the past 4 or 5 months since December. And so we're looking at really bad numbers that have affected our income. Payroll taxes, businesses are hurting, that's down as well. And we have seen, we don't have the kind of foreclosures that exist in other parts of the Bay Area, but we have a loss of property value in San Francisco that is fairly significant, where we've had maybe 10% increases in the property tax. Now we only have like a 1%, maybe almost a 2% property tax increase for coming to the next year, which is a significant decline in what was expected to come out of our property tax over the years. And just to say, a couple of years ago, I was saying, hey, we have a foreclosure crisis in San Francisco. I wasn't specific enough. We have a foreclosure crisis that's happening in the southeast sector of San Francisco, which is Bayview, Hunters Point, Visitation Valley, Excelsior, OMI neighborhoods, and that I think is having a huge impact on the rest of San Francisco's property tax. Maybe values are stable in some parts of the city, but the values of property down in the southern part of the city are not very stable. They're declining rapidly, and my house has probably declined about $80,000 in the past year. I'm not sure if that's what other San Franciscans experience, at the same time. So we have a real estate transfer tax is another part of in good years, and I think part of all the speculation that we've had over the past few years that perhaps led to this crisis was something that was driving our real estate property tax to increase dramatically. We had buildings in this part of town, our high-rise buildings like the Bank of America building and maybe One Market Plaza, maybe traded hands a couple times over the past 5 years. With our real estate property tax for a building that is changing hands, we might get $20 million out of a single building that's going for $1 billion. And so we're not seeing that kind of property tax increase anymore, and that's like driven down what we expect out of that funding stream. And so all the expectations that we had in the budget, we don't have in terms of revenue. We've also have some difficulties with other things. We had our world economic collapse, we had our market collapse, and we have our investments that run our retirement. They actually have gone down, and now we actually are on the hook to pay for our retirement, and some of that comes out of our general fund money. So we have this structural deficit that prevents us from really doing all the services we want to do because we have a commitment to retirement. So these structural issues that we have and how our budget works that are in play as well that lead to our difficulties that we're in right now. People will say that employees get paid too much in this city. What it really comes down to is employees don't get paid much more in San Francisco than comparable counties and comparable cities. What happens is one of the big increases is the cost of benefits and health care. Maybe some of those are tied to our charter that allows for high benefits, but that's also the increase that's inflationary increases that are going on for health care and other benefits that are impacting our bottom line. And then we've had some strange things that have happened around our MOUs and our labor negotiations. Something that I contended with, and maybe Sean Ellsburn has a different opinion about it, because he'll cite SEIU 10-1, who gets a huge, what he says, a huge increase, but the numbers aren't there in succeeding years to provide for that increase in the city budget. Well, the POA, the fire department, some nurses were able to get like 7% a year increases. That was approved in 2007. They were approved in 2007, but everyone knew in 2008 that the money wasn't going to be available for those increases, so that already set in play a structural deficit that it continues year after year. So we often balance the budget without really knowing how much money is going to be available for pay for salaries based on labor negotiations that go on. How bad is it? It's pretty darn bad. I mean, I'm getting inundated, on a daily basis with people who are concerned about. Every service imaginable is people have concerns about. So what's really comes to my inbox a lot is the rec directors and rec and park programs. Now I'm hearing about pools. So just on the rec and park issue, but then public health is taking they have to come up with $100 million out of their budget to help balance this budget. Unlike the police department and unlike the fire department, who have a significant part of discretionary revenue, they don't have to come up with those. They're somewhat protected by mandate set-asides, especially the police department. So things fall disproportionately on services that affect, I think, the neediest San Franciscans, and also I would say everyday San Franciscans who just want to enjoy what the city has to offer, like our parks and that. So in committee today, we were talking about the fire department, which every department has had to come up with a 12.5% cut from their budget, and then a 12.5% contingency cut on top of that. Well, some departments haven't had to do a 12.5% contingency cut. They haven't had to go the 9 yards to do that, and they're kind of held harmless on that. And so we're pushing back on the fire department, and to the extent that we can push back on the police department to do the same about their second half of their cut, although they're protected by a charter amendment. We're trying to do that. So I was pushing hard to make sure that happens so that we can not just select key departments that are going to shoulder the burden of this deficit, but we can share that pain around. So I think that we're going to see significant differences in what our deficit's going to look like and how our services and what we expect out of city government, even if we balance the budget. I'm confident that we're going to balance this budget because every year we have to. July 31st is the date that we balance the budget, and so I have every confidence that we're going to do that, but there'll be a lot of blood on the floor in the process. So those are my concerns. And how do we get out of it? We make government more efficient. We help consolidate some of our departments where we can find some waste and maybe some backroom functions in departments that can share resources and technology or human resources, things like that we can free up. We can look at, layoffs are one thing that's being considered. I think that we're seeing the brunt of that, especially 10-1, SEIU 10-1. But really, I think that we have to find revenue to balance this budget, and it's not just the kind of short-term revenue or fee increases that we can find in a city department. I think we have to go to the ballot to find upwards of $100 million plus to help remedy the situation we're in. And those are hard decisions. I don't go to the ballot to raise revenue with a lot of glee, but I really feel that we're losing the best of what we have in San Francisco. As Mike mentioned, this city is a place that I think sets the trend, or really sets a high standard for how we care about people and how we want to have the most robust and caring city that we can have. And we stand to lose all of that in this budget deficit. So I'll stop right there.
Okay, thank you very much.